If you look at kelp meal, and this is one of the things, I absolutely do not use kelp meal. After all of the research that I've done, kelp meal is a no-go, and this is why. When I've looked at maybe 20 different brands, suppliers of kelp meal, there is only one single company, and that is Espoma, that has low arsenic. Okay, so across the board, kelp is notorious for arsenic contamination. Espoma had like 1.37 ppm. All the rest were between 20 to 30% ppm, parts per million of arsenic. And now, so that's a great concern, especially when we're talking about commercial production of food or medicine, especially in medicinal herbs. We're testing. We get we have to test these products, and that can be a huge problem for commercial cultivation. So, and then if you look at the actual nutrition of kelp, if you're looking at the NPK, it's usually less than 1% across the board. We might have 1% nitrogen, you might have 0.5% or 0.25% phosphorus, and maybe 0.5% potassium. The amount of kelp that you would need to add into a system to bring that system to nutritional sufficiency would be exponentially more detrimental because of the high heavy metals, the high sodium, and the high chloride content. Because all kelp has high sodium and chloride, because it's an ocean input. In all ocean inputs, well, there's oyster shell, crustacean meal, fish bone meal, all those things have higher sodium associated with them. And so when you're adding a bunch of kelp, if you're trying to add it in there to bring these systems, I need my NPK levels up, it's not an adequate source of those to bring it up, and then the amount that you would have to bring in, it'd be detrimental to that system. That's one of the things that we're talking about. Just because something's organic doesn't necessarily mean safe, or doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to have a positive benefit. The cons for kelp, for me and the people that I work with and consult with, the cons outweigh the pros, is what I'm saying. So there's more negative impact associated with using kelp. Now, the thing that most people will say, I want to use kelp for the phytohormones, the things like the auxin, which is indoleacetic acid, or the cytokinin, or the gibberellic acid, or the trace mineral elements. Well, you can find most of those trace mineral elements in most of the organic meals, like I was talking about before. Blood meal, bone meal, feather meal, they all contain trace mineral elements. Your compost contain trace mineral elements. And then we also have, and if you're looking strictly for like a phytohormone input, the benefit from plant hormones, I use Kiaha. I use cold-pressed Kiaha, not the dehydrated, but the cold pressed. And that's because the Kiaha doesn't have any of the negative associations with the heavy metals, the sodium, the chloride, but it does contain all the bioactive compounds, the organic saponins. It contains all of the cytokinins, gibberellins, and indoleacetic acid, as well as a bunch of other things like amino acids. So you take different approaches, and I know which approaches work best for the practical application of these things. Now, most of the science will say, kelp works wonders, but most of these things are done on just regular food crops, and none of those food crops are being tested. What is the end result? What are the metals levels content? What is the actual mineral nutritional value of these? So we can get biostimulating effects from a lot of different things, including microorganisms. And so I take just a different approach when it comes to kelp, and that's my reasoning behind that.
This clip is brought to you by AC Infinity. Use discount code MrGrow at 15 to save on any of their products.